All right, good evening, everyone, or late time as it may be. Thanks for anyone who's joining on the live right now. If you're not catching it live, this is going to be a replay. I'm John Henry, and welcome to a valued conversation, Generation X spoken word. And tonight we're going to have a topic that's going to be called Unconditional Love, Conditions Apply. So to do this with me tonight here, I've got a couple of my partners here who I spent time with in the Air Force. On the top here, we've got Howard. And on the bottom, we've got Dwight. So again, these guys I've spent time with at least 20 years. We've known each other. And tonight we're just going to sit here and, as the kids say, chop it up here. So before we get started, in about a minute or less, just give me a quick background from each of you. So Howard, go first. Give me your current career, what you did in the military, as well as pretty much just a little something about yourself. Go ahead, man. Knock it out.
Hey, Howard here. I'm currently a military contractor. My background is in POL fuels. Spent 6 years off and on in Afghanistan and active duty for 8 years, quite a few years ago. I'm into adventure, travel, my amazing wife, and investing. Was a sponsored skateboarder, sponsored BMX racer at one time. Now, due to some shoulder injuries, I don't do those as much. Surfing, snowboarding. I mainly mountain bike and bicycle camp.
All right, appreciate it. Good looking out, Howie. Dwight, same thing. Current career, what you did in the military, and it's a couple of interesting things you get into nowadays. Pause.
Gotta get a sip, get that throat.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Dwight. I'm a military contractor as well, retired Air Force. IT background. I been doing IT for most of my career. And as Howie said, I'm married 34 years, so I've been married a long time. Some of my hobbies are computers, of course, stereo equipment, fantasy football, music. It spans the gamut, but I'm here to talk with John and Howie about life and dating and things of that nature. So I look forward to talking all night about that.
All right, appreciate the quick introduction, guys. For most of you folks who've seen me around here, again, John Henry, 20 years in the military. Also, myself, I dealt with information management, which was actually creating, maintaining, and disposing of information that we use on a day-to-day, as well as also being in the communication career field, which is where I met Dwight. And I met Howie when I was still in the information management career field. When we were back at, I was in Lake and Heath, Howie was at Mildenhall. And Dwight and I met when we were at Ramstein. Represent you safety, baby. So the key thing to keep in mind here is that all of us up here are Generation Xers. All right, so our ages range from 54 up to 57. So we've been around here for a minute. So we may go ahead and segue into a few things while we do this. We had a little problem earlier. Here, problem, but we had a problem getting the sound and everything taken care of. So if you hear a little bit of squelching, you have to forgive me right about now. We'll try and get this fixed as we go throughout the systems here, okay? But kicking it off right now, let's go ahead and get into the topic. The topic here that we're going to be discussing is unconditional love. Conditions apply. So when you hear someone mention unconditional love, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Now, when I hear that, that means that no matter what somebody does, hey, it's still going to be okay. It's not going to be a problem. You're just going to love me for who I am. But at the same time, if somebody else happens to be having that same conversation about unconditional love, they're going to think, well, no, wait a minute. We got to call a line here. We got to say that this does not work. We have to have this conversation about why you think it's okay for you to act this way, but I can't. So I'll give you guys the scenario. So you got a guy who's been dating a girl. They've been dating for, let's say, about maybe a couple of months. So they've been out on a few dates. Let's say that they've even got together romantically. But at one point in time, the guy looks around and thinks, you know what? There's a lot of expenses here. I'm spending a lot of money. We go out. I take you to places. We do a couple of things on my bid here. So when's the possibility that you might be able to provide me a home cooked meal? And the answer he gets is, well, you can get a home cooked meal when you marry me. All right, pause. Now, that is a conversation I had on a different panel. One of the ladies actually said, well, he can get a home cooked meal when he marries me. But she didn't say anything about all the expenses that he had put into her in the relationship. So, Howie, first, give me a shout, man. What's your thoughts about that?
Wow. Um, it's wild out there. I'm glad I'm not not in that situation with dating these days. But um, I think that's crazy. Um, you know why I think it's crazy? Because you barely know each other. It's been 2 months. You should be doing
Exactly.
everything you can to impress this man. Um, you want to make sure that this guy is fed, clothed, um, cared for. I'm not gonna say clothed, but cared for. He knows that you care about him and he cares about you, and that there's going to be a future here, possibly. Too early to tell, but every man puts on his best face when he's trying to impress you. You should be trying to impress him. If you're paying for stuff, that's one thing, but it doesn't even have to do with anything with paying for stuff. Like taking somebody on a nice date, you've done some things for them. It goes, you know, both ways. You know, um, when I met my wife for our first few dates, matter of fact, the best date that I've ever been on in my life. I'd taken her out probably 3 or 4 times, and she told me, "Hey, look, you've taken me out on a few dates. I'm going to take you out on a date." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Um, I've told the story a million times, but it's still fantastic.
Go
My
ahead,
wife
go
said,
for a
"I'm going to
million
take you.
one.
I want you to dress up." I said, "Okay, I'll dress up. I got some suits. I've been in Afghanistan. I got some custom stuff, really nice." She said, "Oh no, not a dress up suit." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She says, "I'm gonna take you to the new Star Wars movie." I go, "Star Wars, okay."
Oh, cosplay.
Oh,
Got you.
so you want me to dress up like a Star Wars character?
That's pretty cool.
And she said, "Yeah."
Jar Jar
And I,
Binks.
yeah, she said, "I got an Ewok outfit. I'm a nurse. I love kids, and I've done this thing, quite a few times, but I have an outfit, and I know you like Star Wars as much as I do. Let's do it." So I'm like, "All right, cool." I put something together. I made me a suit. I was an X-wing fighter pilot, and she was an Ewok. So I'm like, "Okay, well, where are we going? We're not going to the movie theater down the street." She took me to Universal. If you ever been to Universal in Orlando, you know there's a million and one people down there. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, yes. That's when I started sweating, because I was like, man, there's gonna be people everywhere. All these people gonna see us. But when we got out the car and we started walking, and the kids were freaking out, and the parents were like, "Oh, that's so cool. Can we take a picture with you?" It all went away.
Nerds.
It all it all went away, and it was really fun. We had a great
That's
time.
incredible.
The movie was fantastic, and after it might have been our fourth or fifth date. It was a long time. That was the first night I kissed her.
Memorable
Man,
night.
that
Yeah,
is tight.
and it was because she put it on me. She did something that no other woman would have done. She took me out. She paid for everything. We did our thing. It was just like, this woman is different. This woman is unique. This woman possesses so much. You know, I said, you know what? I got to see where this goes. And that's the night that I said, you know what? I'm gonna follow this through. I'm gonna see this through. We're gonna keep dating.
Yeah.
If
But
I
for
can
a minute there,
interject, I want people to
Yeah,
understand that yes, Howard is married to his sister. So yes, that's who did this. I just want to make sure that it's clear, just in case anyone wants to talk sideways about this whole situation. Good lady.
yeah, you go right ahead with that. But that's a whole different subject. Um, love who you love. You don't know what you're gonna meet or who you're gonna meet or who's gonna take care of you. I've
Exactly.
been around. I've dated many women of many races. I'm not gonna say many, but I've dated some different races. This woman, this woman is outstanding. But I'll tell you something that really turns the tables for this scenario, and I'm not putting anybody down. But my wife is born in Canada, Jamaican parents. I think that's something different. Now for me, I like
Very
I,
nice.
I like unique people, places, and things. And she's gone through the same stuff I went through when she came down here and went to high school in Lakeland, Florida. And she came from a very diverse. If you've been to Toronto, Toronto is amazing. The diversity in Toronto is amazing. She came down to this podunk town with country folk and separation, you know,
Bigots,
Anxiety.
racists.
white folks doing that. They didn't commingle, and
Yeah.
that was a real shock to her. But because of that, she did what I did. I hung out with all the weirdos. I hung out with the people that weren't following the crowd. And so that's what she did. And that's how we somehow like came together. And she was like, oh, I had the same experience. I love diversity. I love people. I don't want to be around the same people all the time. I want to see the world. I'm a worldly person and I'm a worldly person. I've been to 27 countries. I love it. I love travel. And if you want to stay in your same small town the rest of your life, so be it. But
Oh,
that won't
appreciate
be
it,
me.
Howard.
So I
Bet,
just want
man.
to say, I just want to say that women, treat your man right, and it ain't just in the bedroom. Some ladies got it twisted. My wife, she uplifts me. She tells me things. She's like, "You're an amazing person. You do so much for me. You take care of me. You provide. I love you. Let me take you someplace. I see you're down. Let's talk about it. You know, I have never been with a woman of any race that has just been like, "Hey, baby, um, tell me what's up. Tell me how you feel. I love you. You're an amazing person. You look amazing. Um, I trust you with everything, and I want you. If wherever you go, you lead. I'll follow. I make a lot of decisions. I go a lot of places. I do things. I'll be gone the whole weekend. I'll come home and she'll have food on the table because she knows I'm out there doing my job. I'm out there taking care of our properties and all this stuff, and she doesn't give me any flack. And you'll hear Shannon Sharp say, "Do you bring me peace?" My wife brings me peace.
That's
All
key.
right. Cool. Dwight, give me
My wife,
something to follow up with that. Nice one, Howie.
my wife, I have.
Man, that's gonna be kind of hard to follow that. Man.
But
It's
same
a
thing,
strong one for you.
just a
I
Man,
reminder so that
strong.
you remember the scenario,
That's,
Dwight.
I am
yeah, I remember the scenario we were talking about.
So, what's your take on it? Howie's got a
Dinner.
good response.
You're paying for dinners and you're assessing this woman as if she could be the one, and you asked her, and it was kind of funny how you asked her to cook for it. I would be a little bit more direct about how I would ask her to cook me a home cooked meal, but that's just me. But yeah, what you set up was a transactional relationship. That's transactional. Most men do not go well once they figure out, because when you set it up and you say, "Hey, I like a home cooked meal," and she says, "Well, you get one when you put a ring on." Like, whoa, I've already taken you out a couple of times. and we've had a good time. That was
Yep.
not a problem on that side. But now on this side, you're saying put a ring on it. So really, this is a transactional relationship. And I was thinking about that. Have you ever seen a happy ass like jackass, donkey? Have you ever seen a mule happy? I mean, a mule does his work and then he gets pushed to the side. So my thing is men don't want to be mules, man. We don't want to be mules. We want some of that happy, you know,
Right.
like how we said, uplift me, make me feel good about what I'm doing for you and my family, if we have a family. But it can't be transactional. Transactional means that I could probably get another one. You know what I mean? If it's not working out here, I'll just go to the next one and
Pepsi
figure out
generation.
that's me. So my thing is bring me peace, like how we said. Let's not make this relationship transactional. Let's be in this together. Because if I have to put a ring on it just for you to do something so small as to cook me a meal,
Right?
you're setting me up for a hell of a life.
You hit the nail on the
And I don't want that life. I don't want to be, like I said, I've never seen a happy ass. That's just not something you can see, man. You know what I mean? A mule is a mule. He's gonna carry he's gonna tote some shit to the next lane, and then he's gonna get some more. So that's not a good setup. And
no.
transactional relationships these days seem to be kind of normalized. But from my perspective, it sets you up for a lot of situationships, is what they call it, where you're gonna be a bought and paid John. Basically, that's what they called it back in the day. He's just a John, John and Sue. That's going
Side of the
back and
road.
forth. And, the transactional relationship, and that's not good. Nobody wants to be transactional. And if you are, then okay, own that. But yeah, if you tell me to put a ring on it for a cooked meal, man, I'm out of there quickly.
Now, let's add to this. Now, the strange thing about this is that when you talk when we're having this conversation, think about it. Whereas I've heard people say that anyone dating, for example, for a woman's perspective, if she wants to see the husband in the man she's dating, there are certain things that have to come across her eyesight, right? So in the same instance, for a guy who's expecting to see the wife and the girl he's dating, he's going to be looking for a few things as well. Now, let's keep in mind in the scenario that I put out there, she's definitely seeing what she's looking for. Okay, he's paying for things, he's providing. That's what some women would call a provider male. He's paying for dates. He's making sure that he takes care of places where we go to. He's puts money down for trips, and it's a short-sighted view. But even in this scenario, when you have him look at the woman that he wants to consider as his wife, again, something simple as a cooked meal, well, you need to marry me first. And there's some people who watch the replay on this and think, no, that doesn't happen. I will say, bull. It does. And I've heard women who will sit there and put their fist down on the table. He ain't getting nothing from me. You don't get this milk for free. But then that's when we're talking about situations being conflated. To whereas when you hear guys talk about why buy the cow when I can get the milk for free. So in that instance, he may be running a game. She may be being genuine to him, but in the opposite, now he's taking advantage. So sometimes you'll have people take the wrong approach because they may believe, oh, you're taking advantage of it, which may not be the case. Now, picking up from that, let's see. Let's talk about expectancies here. Now, going from that, now when you look at it from a standpoint of expectation, now would you or would you not believe that maybe these folks have been sleeping together for a little while? Now, if they have been sleeping together for a little while, how more outrageous does it sound that again, for him to even get a cooked meal, he needs to marry her first? Howard, your thought?
Wow. Even if they've been together, and it all depends on, if you're moving that fast, you've already put the cart before the horse. And if she's thinking marriage, I think she's made the wrong move. If you're already sleeping with somebody and you haven't even gotten to the point where you've cooked this man a meal, you've set yourself up for failure. Um, you're just out there to get yours, and he's just out there to get his. And maybe he's thinking, this might go a little bit further. We might, I like what I see. It's been good. How about I get a meal? Like let's keep this thing moving forward. And then you tell them that it's like, ooh, all right, maybe I had the wrong idea. Maybe I need to back up and get out of here because
Or go to
this
Pizza
is
Hut.
yeah, yeah. What do you say? Cheesecake Factory. You know,
Oh,
you heard
see,
that
there you
before?
go.
That.
There you go. How about you, Dwight?
Yeah, you can't live off that. And the the principle of a home cooked meal is basically what home life is going to look like for you. You know what I mean? So that's like a step in that direction, and him asking that,
Hmm.
like you said, if they've been intimate and they've been out on a couple of dates, and he says, "Hey, how about a home cooked meal?" That is a basically a step in the direction where he's saying, "I'm assessing you as as a woman, as a caretaker of my home, as a wife, etc., etc." So if that is the immediate response, then he's gotten his reply. His reply is, "That's not for me." So and obviously it's going to be the way she kind of articulates that. Um, if it's in a playful banner and then she does it, then yeah, that could be something. Even if that's even mentioned, that means that she's thinking about it. Like, put a ring on it. It's still like how he said, putting the cart before the horse. But in a way, that's a step in the direction. I'm assessing you as a woman, as a wife, as a caretaker of home, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So those things definitely come into play when you're looking at a woman to be your partner. That's really what we're talking about, right? Partner in life. And
Well,
if
not.
something so simple, if we got to play games, like if we got to play games, quid pro quo, you do this for me, I do this for you. At some point, man, that's gonna fall down like a house of bricks, man. A house of cards, my bad. Because in
Bricks works
marriage,
also because it hurts when them bricks hit the ground.
well, I'm just saying in marriages, man, everything is not going to be quid pro quo. Sometimes you just got to do it,
Yep.
and sometimes it's not going to be a sandwich at the end of it and some chips and fries. It's not going to be a meal at the end. It's not going to be a happy ending. You
I
just
can.
do it.
I'll say for myself when I knew that not my ex-wife, but well, Dwight's met my wife once or twice when she was and I was still dating. We had broken up at one point in time, and before I left Germany, we got back together. But when I knew that she was marriage material, not that I hadn't already seen her for that, but when I was definitive, when I knew that this was the woman I wanted to marry, I think we'd been out one night and we got home late. So we just ended up just going to bed. So we got up the next morning, we showered or whatnot. She went over into the kitchen. She put her hair up. She had on a bathrobe. She went into the refrigerator, pulled out some eggs, got some milk, went into the cupboard, grabbed a couple things, got some bacon, and she sat there and made pancakes from scratch, and then some bacon and eggs. And I remember standing there at that moment. I had to walk over there, put my arms around her while she was cooking, and I thought to myself, yeah, I could get used to this. That's when I knew that now my ex, but before life interfered, that's when I knew that this was the woman that I was going to marry. It was one of those things that you look at and you see it in front of you and you think to yourself, can I get up in the morning and see this for the next 20 or 30 years, however long we may be together if it works out? And that's one of the things that I recognized. So switching gears for a second, let's look at what it is that we would be expecting from the woman that we want to marry. So here's something that I think I've talked to you a couple of times, Howie and Dwight. You and I have been through this over ages when we're looking at what is it that a man is looking for in a woman. So before I say this, like right now it's just the three of us, but I'm sure when the replay goes out, maybe someone might or might not comment. Who knows? Maybe they might not be able to hear what I'm saying because my audio might be squelched. But anyway, let's think of it from this standpoint. What's commonly heard is guys want women to be feminine, fit, friendly, fertile, cooperative, agreeable, discerning, showing discretion, a level of knowledge about herself, as well as being capable of bringing peace. Real quick, I've got more to add to that, but does that sound about right in the wheelhouse to you guys?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Uh,
much.
All right. So the opposite of that, if a man is looking for that in a woman, what is it that a guy should bring? So I put a list together to go with that. So the list that I had goes that if a guy is looking for that in a woman, then women should be looking in men the following things. At least this is the thought process that I have. We as men, we should be focused. There should be guidance, stability, security, discipline, direction, fitness as well. Of course, masculinity plays a part in this. Then we also have to look
Masculinity
at
should have been first.
knowledge. No particular order here, but again, knowledge along with care and protection. So those are the things that I came out with when I was thinking about what a man should provide. So again, how does that sound to you guys before I wrap this all together?
I'm still saying masculinity should have been first. You got different types of men out here.
Agree,
Yeah,
but like I said, it wasn't in any particular
Well,
order. This is just
yeah,
me list. Yeah. But
yeah. So
Howie,
I agree.
what you got on your mind here
um,
before I finish up? Go ahead, Howie. Take a second to
yeah.
answer.
I would only ask that question from a woman. I would never come up with my own.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I'm
the
saying.
first.
Yeah, that's
First thing.
very subjective.
Women have a completely different view of what a woman can't speak for a man and a man can't speak for a woman. That's my
Agreed.
thing. If you want the answer, ask her. She'll tell you, and they're all different. Um, so yeah, what a woman. Let me think. It even it's just a situation where I'm kind of trying to figure out what we were talking about. But for a man, I think more so for me, I think my big thing is words of affirmation. That's my big thing. And if you tell me the right thing, it'll change everything. You don't even have to do anything for me. Like, but the words that you say mean a lot to me. So I'll just say that. You know, the word, and you've heard it before, and you fall into this category. Uh, a lot of men, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. That works for a lot of dudes, but for some people, everybody's different. But I would definitely ask a woman what she thinks that she wants from a man. And you see a lot of women talking about this paying for stuff. Um, you need to figure out what else is happening. There's also the fact that a lot of men, and I've said this to my wife, a lot of men can talk women's panties off. They got to have the gift of the gab. I don't have that. I have zero game. I'll tell you right now. I can't tell you nothing. You just have to like me for who I am. But
Exactly.
but I don't play that. But yeah, everybody's different about what they like and what they don't like. And I would advise people to just Google it, love language. Google that and follow that little game that it's like a little thing, a little you fill out the things that you like and what you don't like, and it'll tell you what's important to you. And I didn't know. I went to counseling. I've been to counseling with quite a few times with different in different relationships. And that was the one that really stuck to me when they said, take this little questionnaire, and this will tell you what type of person you are. And once I read that, I was like, oh wow, that is me, you know. But the funnier thing, and I'm gonna make it quick. The funnier thing is when you actually make that, you actually meet that person that does that, it'll blow your mind.
The list that I was reading for you guys, I've been gathering, putting that out in different forms over the last 2 years. So the information that I put there are things that have been bona fide by women. So what the list that I listed for what men were looking for, that's been out to whereas guys have put that out there, and there have been women who've actually said, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. We should be that. And for the list that I mentioned for women, the women in turn say, okay, yeah, that sounds about right for what we'd be looking for. Now the trick here. Now, have you ever heard the statement, "You can't protect what you can't correct"?
I haven't heard that.
All right, so
I
that's
understand. I understand what it's saying, but yeah,
yeah.
it's not very common.
So when we talk about protection, for the most part, this is something that is spun around in a lot of the male-dominated spaces when they talk about protection. So when it gets to that point, what they're talking about is that when a man has a lady and they're both in the same wavelength, when she goes out of the house, she's his representative. Therefore, when he's out without her, he is her representative. Now, as a rep for each other, I should not be going out bringing up unnecessary strife that would put her in a position to where she would have to defend anything I say. Or at the same time, she should not put me in a position that I'm going to have to physically defend something because of what she said. Hence why I say you cannot protect what you can't correct. Because a lot of the issues, well, let me take that back. Let me not say a lot. Issues that have been seen is where you got two type of adults. You have um, an uncontrollable woman, and then you also have an out of control, unregulated man. You get the two of them together, there's always going to be some type of fighting. There's going to be some type of behavior from either of them, whether they're with each other at the same
Yeah,
time or out someplace. But for some reason, they still end up forming a couple because of what people like to say, some type of toxic union.
toxicity. Yeah.
Yes. So, but be that as it may, I guess the point I'm trying to make, here, I'll land the point on this, land the plane here real quick, is that when it gets to a thing of protection, if you have a woman, let's look at the opposite scale. Let's look at the best case scenario right now. So, if we look at the best attributes of what we talked about from a woman, I think I mentioned, I hope I did, being a peace. That's one of the things I've heard you both say. If her peace is able to match his care and protection, in the end, what you should get is mutuality. That's what we should all be shooting for, you would think, in the end. Something that we can both agree on. Going back to what you were saying, how to whereas people have languages. I'm not one who's, I've heard love languages for the last decade and a half. That's another approach, but still, it's something that does work for people. Some learn visually, some learn from an auditorial perspective. But be that as it may, when you have mutuality, that means that both of you have found something that you agree on, and that builds that foundation. What I found here is that circling the drain, a lot of people are trying to find some type of mutuality, and the problem is that we're already down the rabbit hole. So let me take this back for a minute. Now, again, we're all Generation Xers. So therefore, we all come from that period where men were respected, women were virtuous, and children did not speak until spoken to. Does that resonate with anybody?
Sure.
I
Oh
mean, think
yes.
about it. I mean, smile, but yeah, you smile about it, but it's something to think about it because how often do we stop and think about that was the generation we came from? Because if you recall, back then, one of the most important things they discussed with us, it was about being good citizens. Now, I'm not going to add the racial complexity into this because we are talking about the 60s or the late 60s and the 70s and so forth. But if we look at the desire of society, when we went to school, it was all about I pledge allegiance to the flag, but at the same time, when we came home, there was also some type of standardization that kept in play of trying to teach us to be good people. For example, before we even went to school, We've all watched Captain Kangaroo, right? We've watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We've also watched old television shows. Remember, uh, I guess Father Knows Best, My Three Sons, Family Affair, Dennis the Menace, especially Leave It to Beaver. Everyone always talked about Leave It to Beaver because of the fact that no matter what the Beaver did, it was either his mother or his father, mostly his father, dispensing some type of life lesson at the end of the show, right? Which means that there should be something that you walk away from that you learn from whatever interaction that you're a part of. So as we got older, now let's also add the electric company, um, Zoom. Let's also talk about PBS with the program that they had. Then of course on Saturday. Oh, that's further down the road. We're still in childhood right now, but let's say we're kind of building towards that. But you've got the right idea where I'm going, Dwight. But if we look at the steps I'm taking right now, walk with me. So we've got those building blocks that we're dealing with, and again, I'll say it again: electric company, Zoom, PBS, the Great Space Coaster. These are some of the things that you would see after school. But also remember, what did we have after school? We had the ABC after school specials. Anybody remember those? Yep.
Yep.
And you always had something that dealt with some of the topics, whether it was teen pregnancy, whether it was drugs, gangs, any type of topic that was going on back in the day when we were teenagers or adolescents. There was something on the after school special that addressed that. And then, of course, when the weekend came, what do we have on Saturdays? Schoolhouse Rock. How many of us can remember songs? I'm just a bill, only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
But John, you're not putting the Cosby kids in there as well. The
You,
Cosby kids came on right after there. Not Cosby, not the Cosby Show, the Cosby kids.
are you talking about the Fat
Fat
Albert TV
Albert,
show?
yeah. Fat Albert and the
Oh, okay. I
Cosby
thought you
kids.
talked about the Cosby Show, but yeah, the Cosby Kids. Yeah,
No,
same thing.
no, that was Saturday. That was must see TV as well.
Okay, so
Lessons were learned.
all right. So let me bow. I apologize. I thought you talked about the Cosby Show, but yeah, you're right. I almost forgot. With Fat Albert, yeah, with Fat Albert with Bill Cosby, every Saturday. To what Dwight is saying, yes, you had a lesson that was taught from there as well. I can remember racism being taught, or about being best friends, or being greedy, or recognizing when someone may be considering suicide. I remember seeing all that with Bill Cosby growing up on the Cosby Show on the week, or the Cosby Kids Show on the weekend. All that stuff was a part of my building block. But what I'm saying is that we had stuff that helped us to work towards being good people, and that's what I'm saying. That's what we had. So as we got older, now I can recall when I was about 18 or 19. This is about 88 or 89. But if you recall, there was a shift in certain aspects of music as well as television. Because we all know at one point in time we were talking about Fresh Prince, Girls and Nothing But Trouble, the Beastie Boys, Paul Revere, Eric B. and Rakim, I Know You Got Soul, EPMD, You Got to Chill. And then one day I'm sitting in the club and I hear We Want Easy, We Want Easy. And I'm looking around trying to figure out, yo, what is this? And then, of course, you also have Public Enemy, My Uzi Weighs a Ton. But that was nothing negative per se. That was more or less consciousness per se. But it was nothing that I would think of from the point of where gangster rap started coming in. But it wasn't just with the rap lyrics. Let's all think about television. Beavis and Butthead. Remember when Fox came out? You had Married with Children. Now, that was the first time that I'd ever seen a television show that was so opposite from Leave It to Beaver, where the father was looked at for guidance and the kids went to him, to whereas the father was looked at as an imbecile and the wife and the kids all took turns talking about it, even to his face. That was where I saw the shift in dynamics. And then, of course, now we're talking about going into the 90s, where you start to get more TV shows that are apathetic. So when someone used to fall on the ground, they'd be, oh, can I help you up? Now it's a thing of, ha ha, everybody's laughing. And also, again, going back to the music. Remember back in the early 80s, Madonna came out with Material Girl. All right, so follow it up with Gwen Guthrie. You got to have a job if you want to be with me. Then you had Salt and Pepper talking about independent woman. You need me. I don't need you. And then you go on to the 90s, and it's just a buildup of this. Now, I'm not saying that we didn't have two live crew back in the day, because we all know how Luke and the fellas used to get down with that mess. But nonetheless, it's more so a thing of it was normal to chastise males per se. Now, I'm not saying that everything that we did as males was above board. We know that there's been wrongdoing on our part, but what I'm saying is that there was a shift in society, and a lot of that started building momentum into the mid 90s. Now, if we take the male female perspective out of it and we look at it from a societal aspect, I truly believe that the most apathetic part of what these kids are nowadays started during our time frame. Because again, I mentioned things that we had when we were adolescents, or at least into that adolescent phase. We talked about the Cosby Kids, Leave It to Beaver, Zoom, Electric Company. Let's not leave out Riff. We had certain things that were pushing us towards being decent people. To now, you've got we had what MTV Jackass, Big Brother, Real Housewives, Cow and Chicken. You know, these type of things, to whereas you try and figure out what has happened to how our children have progressed, what happened to building a level of decency. So I'll land the plane right there. But Dwight, I know that's a lot to kick in, but I know you probably took it all down just as Howie did. What's your perspective of looking at where we are now and down the rabbit hole versus where the three of us started before it got to that point? What's something that you've noticed?
Um, you've uh, you've kind of spanned a couple generations with the changes. But what I see what you're saying though, and what I'll say is that programming has changed. Uh, you mentioned all of the things that socialized us as kids. Now there is a lack of that. Kids are now being socialized by the games and the phone, the electronics, your cell phones, social media, et cetera, et cetera. So they're being socialized differently. The lessons that were learned in all of the shows that you mentioned are now left to social media or the parents. There's no reinforcement of societal norms, if you will. So, with that being said, with parents working more, trying to earn to, I guess, live a lifestyle, or maybe just earn, period. Um, these things are now training their kids. They're teaching their kids probably the wrong stuff. You talked about music changing. Of course, that's society changes, music's going to change. So you talked about a road of change, a road of different programming. That's what we're on now. And if you're not a part of your children's lives or young people's lives where you can input some of those societal norms that were put into us by parents and programming, then you will have uh, a society that's run amok, if you will, and a society that's dangerously on the brink of whatever we want to say is bad. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, you definitely making a good point. Um, one thing that I really enjoy saying is that I I hate um, littering. I hate littering because of Woodsy the owl, and I hate littering because of the Indian that was on the horse. When the trash hit the ground in front of the horse, he started crying. Yes, sir.
That left a mark on everybody.
I never litter, and I hate when I see it. But like you said, in those times, in those spaces, we got taught really great lessons. That is absent. Um, just think about Barney. This is mind numbing. I don't even get it. But also, these kids today, I've been around some kids my friend's two kids, and I've seen some things. I don't have kids because I've always been worried about taking care of myself before I take care of somebody else. Not being selfish, but being realistic. My parents struggled, and I don't want to have my kids struggle like that when I was growing up. But anyway, um, there's a show where these guys are playing video games, and the kids watch the guy play a video game, and the guy has, and I'm sure there's a few of these people out there now, but the guy had the worst mouth. And I come in the house and I'm watching these two kids sitting in front of the TV, watching this guy that's playing a video game, that's cussing and swearing back and forth, and the guys, you see him playing a video game. I'm like, what are you guys watching? Are you serious? Like, you're just sitting here watching this guy play a video game. You're not playing a video game. You're watching this guy play a video game, and he's just saying outlandish things. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not my kid, but at the same time, dude, Tony, do you see this? Like, you know?
Yeah, leaves a mark.
Yeah. And then one time we've got a pool here, and we invited some friends over, and those friends have kids and everything, and they were jumping in out of the pool and having a good time. My wife was like, yeah, we'll put some music on, and you guys have a good old time jumping in the pool. And she asked, what do you want to hear? And I was like, whoa. And my wife was like, whoa. They wanted to hear some stuff that was Cardi B and some other stuff, like the stuff that you don't play for kids, but apparently they somewhere,
Yeah.
you know,
You thought they was gonna say top 40. That's like
anything other than that. Like, I didn't know, like Megan.
they want the hardcore stuff.
I don't even follow this stuff, but I know my wife had an idea because she was like, "Do you know what these kids asked to listen to?" And then when she played, I don't even know if she played it or something, or the kids just started singing it. But the kids were jumping in the pool singing some of those songs.
Yeah.
And it's just a really weird situation. And like you said, the social media, the face in the phone. I told my wife, I said, if I had kids, and I say it to many people, if I had kids, my kids would hate me. They would hate me because I wouldn't give them access to none of that stuff. We'd be going camping, we'd be going on trips. Phone? No, no phone. You know? You're 10 years old with a phone?
Yeah,
Dude,
that's how we were. Our kids
That right
our
there.
kids didn't get phones until they were like I think 14.
yeah.
We waited and they were complaining and crying and
Because
we
they didn't have a phone.
just told them we're not like everybody else. We don't care about how they live. That's
Yeah,
how they live.
yeah. And these kids got to figure it out. It's like,
Kids are entitled today, man. Very entitled.
yeah, it's wild. Like, so yeah, I get where you're coming from. That made a mark on us when we were kids. There's a few things that I remember to this day. Cerrado, abierto. The first two Spanish words I learned, and that was because of I think the electric company,
Electric company.
or it might have been Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Probably Sesame Street. Either way, there were some Spanish people on Sesame Street.
Absolutely.
Open, close, abierto, cerrado, and that's just, if they put more of that stuff out there, these kids would learn things rather than some of the stuff that they're doing and seeing. And
TikTok
I would
trends,
yeah, like,
the ice bucket challenge, and all this other stuff. The hold your breath
yeah,
challenge, where some kids died.
yeah. I see stuff that I'm just like, I scroll right on past it. Like, I don't. Is some
It's
kid
mine.
watching
It
this?
is. It's
You know,
mine.
yeah, it's completely mind numbing. And there's this trend where the kids. This is off the subject. There's trends where these kids would tell them, hey, look, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to college. You can learn a trade. Yeah, you can. You can not go to college, and you can learn a trade, and you probably would make good money. But there is a void that is coming to roost at some point in time, because you can already see it. Where are all your doctors from?
Oh, they're coming from India.
Thank you, sir. And I didn't even have to say it. All
Yeah.
your doctors are coming from India.
Yeah.
All these things that you are not, you know, don't go to college thing. There's a lot of stuff you need college people for. There's a lot of stuff you need college educated people for. And now created you've created
Uh,
a generation of kids that think it's okay not to go to college. And
but
you've
they
heard
need professional services that
we've
yeah,
all heard it,
yeah,
and they think that they're gonna get over. I'm gonna be a TikToker.
yeah.
I'm
There
gonna
you
be
go.
I'm gonna be a podcaster.
Exactly.
I'm gonna be and
Yeah.
my nephew already is in school to be programming video games. Um, I don't know what to say. You know, every,
Yeah, look at me now.
but this is the thing. Everybody can't do that.
No,
You are
no,
going to. You've got a whole generation of kids that want to be gamers or make video games, but yet, how many video games are there? What is there, like 10, maybe even less? 10 companies that make video games?
a lot of them don't go to market.
Absolutely. A lot of them don't make it.
Yeah,
But if you decided that you wanted to be a doctor, a nurse, my wife is a respiratory therapist, anything in the medical field, you got a job for life. You can go anywhere in the world and work.
absolutely.
IT is the same. You can go anywhere in the world and work. These are the things, and you know what you need? You need college. You know, so I don't know.
You need secondary training
You need
and
something.
schooling.
You need
Yeah,
something. You're not going to HVAC
no,
class.
you're not.
You know, everybody needs an air conditioner for sure. I love air conditioning, but there's 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 a whole bunch of people that are missing out on some really good jobs that everybody needs when everybody gets sick.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest business in the world is the medical field.
Medical. Yeah,
Now let's
medical.
think about
Absolutely.
this, just to reel it back in a bit, because I know we're kind of off topic, but what we're talking about still goes
Right.
into, because I know you, me too, but what I'm saying is that it
Yeah.
still kind of gears into when you look at again the conditions about at least having a work ethic. Let's say having a work ethic. So that's essentially what we're talking about when we look at people going into work, going to school. You've got to understand you have to work at things. So think about the same thing when we look at the work ethic for the relationship. You've got to be willing to understand that you have to put something in order to get something back. Now, I think we can all agree on that. But here's something that I find a lot of people have a problem agreeing with. Now, when I listed off the things for men and women, all right, this still goes back to unconditional love based, meaning, hey, we have a conditional that we have to agree on. There's something conditional still. When I mentioned this, a lot of the ladies would get upset. But when I took it to market, when I mentioned this to some of the men, they themselves were like, oh, no, man, I'm not doing this. And the word I'm talking about is submission. Now, a lot of ladies, even men, don't know the difference between submission versus subservient. Submission meaning that you're more or less acknowledging the will or the way of another person. Now, there are other terms that they use to make it more harsh, acknowledging the way of a superior person, but that's again a lot of speak getting put on top of that. But at the bare minimum, submission is acknowledging the will and the way of another person, whereas subservient means that you do at the behest of the other person regardless. So again, there's a difference. So the question I started posing, and I remember Kevin Samuels said this a while back. Now again, I don't follow everything that he says by the T, but he did bring a lot of awareness. But one thing he made a statement is that there is a cost or a price for submission. So everyone seems to look at the woman first. When you hear the word submission, what are we getting into? Now I try and tell people submission, if you substitute it, put it as trust, meaning that she needs to see something in him that will make her trustful enough to be able to get on his page. For example, Howie, you are and your wife, perfect example of this. She trusts you. You let her see something. She trusted your your approach, your thought process. Now, if you subtract, or should I say, switch it around to where you talk about submission, there was no domination in here. This was simply her way of acknowledging that I trust what you're doing for us because she was able to see something. Now, of course, we know in outside of this conversation, if you mention submission in a pool of certain women, it's all going to go to hell. All right, just because of the fact, oh, I'm not your slave. You ain't getting me to do such and such. Now, let me pose something to you. Would you believe that men are the first to show submission? Now, real quick, yes or no? Would you guys believe that?
Yeah, I believe it. I
All
believe
right.
it. I believe it
Uh,
because it is something that I practice.
So, the way that we show submission as men, when we first roll up on a girl, and let me just back something up here. Let's make it clear: men chase, but women choose. That's just how it's been, unless you're a certain caliber of male that breaks that particular mold. But still, let's say from an average perspective, men chase, but women choose. Now, when we see that woman that we want to talk to, and we go up to her and say, "Hey, shorty," or whatever it was the language used to do back in the day, but essentially we're saying, "Hey, I'm interested in what you got going on. So how can I be down? So how about you and I having a conversation? What do I need to do to get some of your time?" And the response was, "Well, you can't be messing around with all these other girls. If you want to talk to me, you need to talk to me. Let me know that I'm the person you want to talk to." And what was it that we normally did? Okay, but all jokes aside, it's still a thing of yes. That was us saying that I want to go ahead and get with your program. So I will not mess with these other women. I will not do all this other mess here because of the fact that you are now telling me this is what I need to do to get your time. Is that or is that not an act of submission based on what we discussed?
Yeah.
All right. So when you turn it around, when it gets to the point that this guy has seen in her the woman that he expects or would be his wife, and he says that he wants to get married, and then they have the conversation and the word submission comes up, why is it such a ballyhoo drop dead knockout fight for her to show the same level of submission to him that he was willing to her? Your thoughts?
Well, semantics. Uh, my definition might be different than yours and Howie's, but a man submits when he starts bringing his paycheck home and he starts providing. That's submission right there. Time is a provision. Resources is a provision. Guidance is a provision. All of those things are things that are provided and could be termed submitting to a woman because you're putting all that energy into that woman. So from that aspect, I look at that as of submission. So I agree that we do submit. For women, it sounds like you're saying women have a hard time with the word submission or the act. Now, is it the word or the act? Because the word is what I get.
Both.
If you, well,
But again,
if you were to come up to my wife and say, "Do you submit to me?" If you ask her if she submits to me, she would ask you, "What do you mean by that?" So I think it's word play. If you give her a definition of submission, the way I just kind of just talked about how a man submits to a woman, she probably would agree with you. But if you say, "Well, do you submit to him?" You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
what you stated is not per se by definition submission, but I get what you're saying. But yeah, we're in the
Right.
same wheelhouse for the most part. It's not the actual submission. What I gave was the definition. I'm trying to bring it up here and pull it up. Here we go.
I think that's where most people, men and women, get it wrapped around the axle is
Yeah,
the
poor
actual.
comprehension. I'm going to
Yeah,
say
I
it.
think
You have poor comprehension. Reading is no longer fundamental.
Yeah.
well, I won't say that. I just think the actual stating of it. Do you submit to him or do blah blah blah? And it's
Yeah.
like, well, what do you mean by that?
Well,
Give me
there's
the
context
definition of
also. Remember the
the
definition and
context.
context. And as
Right.
I said, what I presented was the context spoken of. Matter of
Subservient is
fact,
what most people think. Like you said, subservient. You
yep, they
know,
get it
he's
wrong.
below me or she's below me. And most people are going to buck at that. But if you provide a proper definition and articulate it, most folks will be like, well, yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. You know what I mean? I am submitting to her my resources, my energy, my intellect, all these things I am submitting to this relationship. So yeah, absolutely.
Here now, can you guys see that on your screen?
Yeah, that,
Consideration.
that's not gonna do anything to somebody that don't want to hear the word submission.
But again, it's
Hear the
not
word.
about doing anything to anybody. It's about being able to ascertain, or not ascertain, but making sure that there's a baseline. Now, we're not doing this just so we can say, "Well, it's not going to do anything for anybody." We're doing it to show why people have the problem
Well,
because
look
of
at the
not
last one,
understanding
John.
it.
Look at the last one. It says submitting to the authority or control of another.
And that's
That's
the
the one. That,
definition. That's the
That's
definition
the
when
one that's
presented.
going to get people upset.
yeah,
Hence why
and
you
it is
have
the
two other
definition.
definitions. Notice you always have folks who will run to the worst case scenario. Now,
I'm
like I
telling
said,
you.
there's the harshest way to say that. And yes, let me put this back up here because I think you guys can see it, but I need to put it out here to whereas if anyone watches this in
Yeah,
replay so they can see it.
yeah.
Yeah, so basically, that's the definition that everyone runs to. And even then, it sounds harsh, but it's still not subservient. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's do subservient.
Well, to be frank, the first one doesn't give you a definition. It has submit all in it. So the first one is not a definition. You're telling me an act of submitting. Well, what is submission?
Oh
Yeah.
wait, so
The
there's
second
a
one, it says a condition of being humble or obedient. And the last one says submitting to authority or control. So I
well, listen.
submit to you, since we're using this word submit, that
Yeah.
these definitions will not go far when you're talking to a person that's married or like me. I've been married 34 years. I'm telling you straight off the fact that that definition with my wife would have a problem with that definition.
Yeah, so there's the one that I was looking for, obviously, to formally say nope, yield to nope, yield to control. I'd actually saved it because I wanted to do a show on this regarding the definition. So this
Trying to
is
find the right definition.
because again they all mirror the same for the most part. They all mirror the same with the variants. But the one that I actually had was the definition that I explained to use of the act of of accepting the will of another person. That was another version that I was going to start out with and then slowly transition into what we see with the other definitions of submission. But since we're here, let's do this last one, subservient. Because I know you guys got to get on your way.
Yeah. I just have one thing to say. I'm gonna give you a nugget. Um,
Please give him a nugget. You know, from us married men.
yes,
Please.
Yeah.
I have found power in the term "I apologize."
Yes.
Now that is submission by definition.
Yep.
I apologize. Do you accept my apology? I have found power in "I'm sorry." I've found power in "it's my fault." These are words that your average man would be like, nope, not saying it.
Yep, you are correct. Do you guys see what I have up on the screen here going on what you're saying, Howie?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
This is the
Yeah.
mistake. Now, what Howard just said is perfect about someone who knows the difference between these two words, and also the power of being able to say I was wrong. That was my mistake, my bad.
Yep.
Now that will go a long way if you're able to have that conversation with someone who can say I made the mistake. But let's think about it now. In the society that we're living in as of today, right now, on this date, there are too many people, even folks in power coming to power, who believe that saying I'm sorry is a sign of weakness. John Wayne is famous for saying never apologize because of it showing weakness. I saw the picture, or at least the quote itself. It is official. That's his perspective of it. However, in what you're saying, Howie, I look at that as being one of the main things that if you're going to have folks who believe in unconditional love, then there has to be some things that there's conditions on that we have to accept. We have to be able to say, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I could have done this better. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing as far as cowering. That's simply being able to say that, yeah, I made a mistake and I own it.
Yeah. But what's funny about it to me is that I see it as a strength.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't,
see it as weakness either.
I don't
Yep.
see it as a
It's a
weakness
strength.
at
It
all.
is.
I don't
It's a
see it as
strength.
weakness either because it allows you to move forward. You're not stuck
It,
spinning.
yep. It allows you to move forward. It allows you to take responsibility, which a lot of people don't do. You take
Yeah,
responsibility, you apologize, and you move forward. That's strength.
moving
For you to
forward is
sit there and
is the key
stew,
thing.
for you to sit there and stew about something, you're not speaking to each other. You're just
Mm-hmm.
like you got that churning in your stomach, and you just will not. You won't submit.
Yeah,
You just submit and say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I screwed up. I apologize.
yeah,
Accept my apology."
absolutely.
And then we move forward.
That's the key thing, and like you said, I see it as a strength as well. You
Mhm.
have to be
Exactly.
able to move forward. If
Yeah,
you're gonna stay stuck, I mean, that's gonna permeate into other aspects of your life, man. Work,
that's a
working out, all those things, man.
yeah, that's a
Hobbies, whatever you got going on in your life, it's gonna permeate into that.
it's a strong. It takes a strong man to admit he's wrong. It takes
Exactly.
a strong man to apologize. That's not weak.
Absolutely. And
I
unless can we move forward,
Yep.
you know.
currently agree. So I guess we
So
can all look at that. If we circle it back around, that again, conditions of relationships, there are conditions that exist, but if we look at what is done as far as working towards that, having a work ethic, but even right now, we kind of bounced around a bit, but nonetheless, there's nothing wrong with someone having a condition in a relationship. And I'll say the one condition that I told my wife is that, love is not unconditional. There's always a condition. And as I told her, the one condition that I will tell you right now up front is infidelity. If there's something that's wrong, let me know so I have the opportunity to correct it. As you were just saying, Howie, don't sit back and just stew on it and not tell me about it. And then all of a sudden, oh, I've got a new best friend, or yeah, I'm just gonna be working late. I'm hanging out with so and so. Oh, we're just friends, but he's getting all the inside notes of why you're upset with me, but I'm not getting it, and I'm in the house with you. That was, as I told my wife, the one condition that is going to tear us up is that if anyone else comes between us because you cannot communicate with me. So I would say that would be the condition that I had. And again, unconditional, no, it doesn't exist per se because there's always going to be one, and that was mine. Howie, what you got here? And we'll start winding this down. You first.
I'll tell you, it does exist. I have
All right, give
had
me your
unconditional.
example.
I've had unconditional love in a couple of scenarios in my life. I can love someone profusely, but I can't be with you. That's the hard part. And you know somebody that I used to date along that time, and there's
Yep.
been people since then. where I have loved someone, but I can't be with you. It's two different things. You can love somebody as unconditional. I don't care what you do. My heart says it loves you, but my mind knows you're not good for me. You're not. But I can't stop loving you.
That
It's just the way
sounds
it
like
is.
Will Smith and his wife.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And to May, my wife now, I always tell her, she's like, sometimes she feels, some sort of way because she didn't date a lot, or some sort of way because, you know, I didn't have this and I didn't have that. I want to be a great wife because of these things. I don't care about that stuff. I love you the way you are. Oh, but I want to be more of XYZ for you. I want to be. Don't worry about that. I love you the way you are. It's unconditional. You don't have to do this. You don't have to be better at that. You don't have none of that. I love you the way you are. You don't have to try and change yourself for me. It's unconditional. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. But
Well, I agree with you. It is perspective, and I don't believe in unconditional love. It's definitely conditions put on it. If I stop being who I am in a relationship, that's a condition. That's a condition that's going to change the response of my partner, who if it's my wife. We're talking wife. So yeah, definitely love is conditional, and the sooner I think people realize that, the better off they'll be. I think Chris Rock said something about that. He said men are the only people who have conditions placed on them for love. So I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And I've seen in my lifetime, in other relationships close to me, where uh, conditional love was the only thing that was given. If quid pro quo is what they call it, right? So I do believe in it. I don't believe it's right, but it's a fact of life. And unfortunately, I don't see it changing, not with the way society is trending towards. And we talked about it earlier in this conversation about how the woman said she won't cook a meal, uh, a measly meal, without a ring, a promise of a ring.
Well,
I'm
damn.
like, a promise ring. Give me some thread. I'll give you a promise ring of thread for a meal. So yeah, I definitely believe that there are conditions placed on love, man, and there's no such thing as unconditional love.
All right, so like I said,
Well,
we'll call it perspective.
from the dog, from my, if you got a dog, or not even a cat, just a dog. A dog is unconditionally gonna love you
That
unless you
right
beat him up.
there, that is one perspective, one view of unconditional love. You can be gone for
Exactly.
5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, but that's, you don't want to compare that with people, but still,
You
that is
don't.
an aspect of it. But yeah, that is another
You
aspect
don't.
of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
Exactly.
guys, so I'll go ahead and wind it down. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come up here and do this with me. So hopefully we can do this again, and we'll find a few more topics here, and I'll kind of lock it down to a few more things that we can go with, but still nonetheless a good conversation. And just to break in here for a second, anyone watching this, find someone who knows someone to tell somebody about what we've got going on here. If you like it, let us know. Share it if you do. Subscribe if this is something that you're looking for. Any last thoughts from you, Howie?
it's all good. You know, life is what do you say? A bowl of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
A bowl of chocolates.
Yeah, watch your mouth and be careful out there. It's some wildness.
All right, Dwight, what you got for the people?
Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. I look forward to doing some more in-depth conversations. I want to get back to that submit thing too, because that's a good one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's a good one. A conversation around submission and the reality of what it is. It's basically a binding of two people. That's
Yes.
what submission is, really. It's a
Yes.
binding of two people.
I've got a whole script that I put out for that, so we'll be able to do that next time. I just didn't finish, but like I said, I edged into a little bit, but we'll do more on the next time about. But again,
Yes.
guys, thanks for checking this out here, and anyone who's watching this, I appreciate you guys for seeing this, and we'll catch you on the next time. We out of here.